What's up? Discount Wolverine here.
So, what's up with Hollywood losing billions of dollars over the past 4 years or so? And is still losing big? Is it because of the strike the actors, writers, and directors went on last year over the fear of artificial intelligence taking over their jobs? They took them! Is it because the budgets for the movies are too expensive? Don't kid yourselves. They have more money to burn than Pablo Escobar. Is it because the inflation is too high and people can't afford movie tickets anymore? Could be. Or is it something else entirely? Let's find out. An obvious reason is because we stayed under lockdown in our own houses for more than a year and Hollywood, more or less, halted most of their productions. But a massive industrial behemoth like Hollywood could surely survive a blow like that.
Yeah, I wish I could say the same thing about small business owners.
Another reason is the shift in the global power dynamics and the fact that USA is no longer the dominant economy in the world, with China surpassing USA's economy and slowly replacing Hollywood in the worldwide box office. I mean, it was unheard of to see a single Chinese movie in the top 10 box office highest grossing movies of the year. In 2020, not a single Hollywood movie was in the top 3 highest grossing movies of that year. And with each consecutive year, more and more Chinese movies are making their way into the top 10 box office of the year. China is not only surpassing USA economically, but culturally as well? Ugh. That's a sentence I never thought I would utter. But the most important reasons why Hollywood is going bankrupt at this moment are two primary reasons that are intertwined with each other, with one of them being a consequence of the other. One is audience fatigue, and the second is corporate greed. Let me explain. Audience fatigue is self-explanatory. People are tired of the same formula and the same scripts recycled over and over again, the same basic 3-act structure in every action movie, the same MacGuffin tropes, the same concepts retold in different ways. And of course, another reason of that is because writers and directors nowadays lack any originality whatsoever. And the audience is tired of the same product regurgitated and repackaged. And the second major reason is, of course, corporate greed. The fat, oily, slimy, and stinky producers from Hollywood are the ones that pull the strings, of course. What am I preaching on this channel over and over again? Follow the money and you will find the culprit. The Hollywood producers nowadays are more conservative with their money than Maggie Thatcher, Ronnie Reagan, and Milton Scheckelberg combined. And that is the lack of taking risks. Of course, the Hollywood producers, for every dollar that they invest in a movie, they want to get 1,000 back out of it. They are not willing to take the risk for a young, passionate writer or a hopeful, ambitious director to push the boundaries of filmmaking. No! The slimy producers want to play everything safe from their cushy mansions without taking any financial risk, because their market advisors told them what is trendy, or what the political climate is, or what niche or audience they have to cater to. That's why you see in every single goddamn movie the diversity quota or the LGBT quota. In every modern movie, you need to have at least 5 African descendants, 4 transsexuals, 3 feminist Karens, 2 Asian nerd figures, and 1 mystery meat androgynous polyamorous pinky pansexual. The white guy is optional, and if you want to put him in a role, make him lame and dumb. The producers are so out of touch with reality and with their core audience, if you put them in a room with the average moviegoer, they'll have a panic attack. In their insatiable greed to make the most amount of money possible out of their shitty movies, they forgot who they make those movies for. And now they are losing money by the billions and woo! is so fabulously satisfying. Because I've seen the absolute arrogance of Hollywood and what those out-of-touch snobs are doing behind the closed doors. But this video is not about this, otherwise it might get taken down. The filmmaking industry was an industry based on risk-taking. You think the Lumiere brothers knew what they were doing back in the late 19th century when they projected the very first cinema public screenings? Do you think Victor Fleming and David Oselnik, big nose, knew that the adaptation of a book written 2 years prior to the release of the absolute masterpiece that is Gone with the Wind will be the highest grossing film of all time, still undefeated after 85 years after its release? Adjusted for inflation, in 2024, Gone with the Wind has a total gross of $4.4 billion. At this moment, Hollywood doesn't even dream of a success as big as Gone with the Wind was. Do you think Francis Ford Coppola knew that Mario Puzo's book adaptation will become the cultural titan that is The Godfather today? Do you think a young guy from a small town in California named George Lucas knew in 1977 that this massive financial risk that was Star Wars would become this global cultural phenomenon? In his wildest dreams, he never thought that he would print more money than the Biden administration. I could go on and on for hours giving you example after example where financial risks in the filmmaking industry, and not only the filmmaking industry, were proven to be massive successes. But you see, the Hollywood establishment is like any other oligarchy, based on nepotism, corporate interest, and insatiable greed that now has begun to bite them in the ass, and woo, what a huge chunk of meat they bit. Because Hollywood at this moment, from 2020 up until today, they have lost more than $500 billion of its market value. That is more than most of the GDPs of all the countries in the world. Hollywood is broke! They are desperately trying to salvage what is left out of this degenerate swamp that is Hollywood, because with each day more and more actors with the integrity and the spine are boycotting Hollywood and abandoning it because of the blatant political agenda that is fed to the audiences worldwide, and they don't want to be a part of it any longer. Cinema is an art form. One might argue is the ultimate art form. This is why you can't put a price on art. This is why the movie industry is failing, because the fat producers treat it like a sanitized market product, neatly packaged and delivered to be easily consumed. This is not cinema. This is fast food in the form of 24 frames per second projected on a big screen. And another reason why the filmmaking industry is failing is because of streaming platforms like Netflix, Disney+, Amazon, and so forth. Back in the day, the course of a movie was the following. Premiere in theaters, have a 2 months window to make, let's say, 85% out of its potential box office, then maybe it stayed for a few months to make a little extra money, then they waited 2 more months and then released it on VHS, DVD, or Blu-ray. Nowadays, they only screen it for 2 weeks at most, and then they put it on a streaming platform, forever to be forgotten in an endless library of other mediocre movies. And it's quite a shame, because in this mass of mediocre, sanitized corporate products that I don't even like to call them films or even movies, there are some hidden gems that passed under the radar. Even decent popcorn flicks that deserved much better than what they have been given. For example, I love the Mad Max franchise. I watched it since I was a kid, and I was curious to see Furiosa. At first glance, I thought, oh, another feminist propaganda movie. And then I popped in the thing and I watched it. And I was surprised. Honestly, I was expecting some boss girl wet dream of a movie. But it wasn't. Furiosa was struggling. She expressed weakness. She wasn't overpowered like other Mauritius, and Anya Taylor-Joy did a pretty good job in the acting department. And it's a shame because movies could be great. And this brings me back to originality and viewer fatigue. The global audience is tired of the same rehashed franchises over and over again. Everything that Hollywood does now is either a sequel, a prequel, a spin-off, a remake, a reboot, a book adaptation, a biotopic, or the same old formulas repeated ad nauseum. And if it's not that and it's trying to be a more pretentious movie, it's either a movie that is blatant Oscar bait, a blatant race bait, a blatant political statement, or an abomination that reflects how degenerate Hollywood is. And all of them have something in common, and that is they are all boring. What happened with innovation? Has Hollywood exhausted all their creativity? I mean, of course they did. When they are restrained by formulas, patterns, and restrained by their greedy producers. And this is why American culture is not evolving. In order to have progress, you need to take risks. In order to make an omelet, you need to break some eggs. And you can say the same about any artistic medium in the world, from music, video games, or even here on YouTube. In order to please the algorithm, you need to do the most addictive, entertaining, brain-rotting content possible to make it big. You can't put a price on art. And we, or more accurately, the Hollywood producers, forgot about this. This is why we don't have a next Orson Welles, for example. This is why Marty Eyebrow Scorsese is still making films at 80 years old. This is why we don't have the next Daniel Day-Lewis or the next Marlon Brando. This is why the action movie star died. This is why the modern Western culture is not evolving. This is one big reason why the average attention span is lower than that of a fish. Of course, there are bigger factors at play like TikTok, social media in general, and brain rot like Mr. Beast on YouTube. Art, or more accurately, quality, in today's world is dead. We no longer value this because this is what is fed to us. This is how the market is manipulated to become a tool of indoctrination and a tool to make people dumber and dumber. Man, idiocracy truly predicted the future. And this is why I will never give Hollywood another dime out of my pocket. I think the last time I went to theater was in 2020, when there was the early coof and I had the face diaper on my face, and it was Tenet. Yeah, Tenet it was. You see, I have to say something about me. I personally saw more films than you have hairs on your head. Certainly more than I have on my head. And I remember that my father used to take me to the cinema all the time when I was a kid. And he showed me this beautiful art. And I know movies are a distraction or even a substitute for reality, and you can easily become a consumer. But you know, sometimes you gotta take it easy and sit down, relax, and watch a good movie from time to time, because life is often tiresome. This is why people like me will always rewatch older films, because they're better in every conceivable aspect. Why would I watch some new crap? Why would I waste my time when I have this gold mine at my fingertips? But you see, the movies of today reflect the modern corporate dystopia that we live in today. The late French actor Alain Delon said in an interview, I think it was 6 years ago or so, before his death, "Reposez en paix, maître." And I quote, "Life doesn't offer me very much. I hate this era. It makes me vomit. Everything is fake. Only money matter." I kinda share his feelings on this. And you might say that I'm a killjoy, or I am bitter, or what Alain Delon said were the words of a old, washed-up, bitter man. But I think he just saw what reality has become. Because if a guy like me, in his late 20s, has the same feelings of an old dude that was almost a century old, and I know that I'm not the only one that has those feelings in regards of the modern world, well, I think this speaks volumes about the state of the modern world.